Standard delivered every single week. Standard delivered, why not take a peek?
You're listening to the Bromsgrove Standard Podcast because you have impeccable taste.
Hi there and welcome to this week's Bromsgrove Standard Podcast. I'm really excited to be joining the studio with Droitwich Town Councillor Alan Humphries. Hello Alan, how are you?
Hello, good morning. I'm fine, thank you. A bit wet, but
a bit wet.
That, fine. Yes.
How was your journey here today? Your commute this morning on the train?
The commute on the train was fine, apart from the weather. The trains ran on time.
Yeah.
Weren't overly full for a change.
Weren't overly full. Yeah. Because I mean, we've met a few times over this issue with West Midlands Railway in particular. That section is just really quite bad at the minute, isn't it? You didn't organise the meeting. It was West Midlands bosses that organised the meeting at the station the other week to talk to commuters about how they could improve the services. But you got the message out there to Droitwich residents to make sure that they were there and they were able to ask the questions that they wanted. I was just wondering, why did you feel that was important to get that message out there?
Well, just a quick one first. Although they called a meeting, they did absolutely nothing to advertise it. And as you quite rightly say, I did the bulk of the advertising for that meeting, and even to the extent, as you're aware, because you were there on the day, I was there with a speaker making sure that people getting off trains knew that they were there, so that they could speak to them. And they hid themselves away in the ticket office and were eventually forced out. I say forced, that's probably a bit extreme, but they had to come out of the office to talk to the volume of people that actually wanted to talk to them. But I felt it was important to call that meeting because for a number of years in Droitwich we've had substandard services that run late, services that don't have the correct number of carriages, services that haven't got the facilities, sometimes without toilets, short-formed cancellations because of signalling problems, which I understand aren't West Midlands Railway's issue, that's down to Network Rail, but things like staff shortages. And to give you a further example of that, in the 2 weeks that followed the meeting on July the 18th, every single conceivable reason for a train either being cancelled or short-formed, every single day in that 14-day period came out. There wasn't one single day when there wasn't a problem on the train through Droitwich, and that is on both lines, the Snow Hill to Worcester line and the Birmingham to Hereford line. So whatever promises they're making, they can't even cope with what they've got at the moment. And I just feel that Droitwich deserves better. It deserves much better than it's getting, and it deserves much more than, it's coming, it'll be soon. What does soon mean? I mean, they've said 2020, well, last time I checked, there are 12 months in the year. That could mean we might not see anything until December 2020.
Yeah. I mean, they took over from the old provider in 2017, didn't they? And they were. I was there with you. They were telling their customers essentially that new trains would come in, like you say, but weren't really that specific on a date. And I think most people were just really upset with how, as you say, how many carriages were there. Was it peak time? A lady was saying that she gets a peak time train in the morning to get to work, and they only provide 2 or 3 carriages at a time. So she's standing up, they're squashed against the window. Yeah. I catch the train. I get on the train myself, and it's awful. I use West Midlands Railway myself. So.
Well, yeah, and they're paying well over £1,000 for a season ticket for that. And I mean, on the day itself, the 5:20 from New Street to Hereford was short-formed, if you remember. And I was getting messages from commuters on that train who knew the meeting was going ahead saying it's short-formed. Can you make sure they stay there until we get there, because we want to say something to them. So it was even happening while they were there at the train station. Didn't go unnoticed that not one of the 4 people that were present at Droitwich train station travelled on the train to or from that meeting. They all use cars. It's difficult not to see the irony in that. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, we have some of the highest ticket prices in Europe, yet you don't even get a seat. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It was just this morning actually that there's potentially going to be a fresh increase of about 2.9% in fares expected to come into effect by January, and of course that's not West Midlands Railway fault. That is set by government, isn't it? But I mean, that could add £100 to the annual season ticket for many commuters. and it means the overall cost is up by 46% since 2009, while the wages within the sector have risen by 23%. So there's a bit of imbalance there, really, isn't there? It's just not the service that it should be.
Well, there is, and there's also, of course, the issue of bonuses paid to senior staff within the organisation as well. They're not going down, they're going up year on year. And the passenger doesn't see anything. The passenger that travels on January the 3rd after Christmas will not see any difference for their increase than they would have seen when they broke up for Christmas. It will just be the same, probably worse, because we're still not getting anything. We're still getting... I follow West Midlands Railways on Twitter. They've admitted that they diverted some of the services that were in place that were just about making it bearable through the Droitwich line to other services that they perceived needed it more. So we lost out in that timetable rejig back in May. We lost out completely. 2 weeks ago we had one train, the 520, which I've referred to earlier, cancelled 4 times out of 5. It's the busiest commuter train in the week, and it was cancelled 4 out of the 5 days, and on the 5th occasion it actually ran 23 minutes late. I know this because I catch it. I don't want to seem unduly sad about knowing these sorts of things, but it's the one that I normally catch, so I was having to wait half an hour for another train, and that will go on being the case while we're not having any investment in our line. And I mean, I'm sure other lines are suffering as well. I'm absolutely convinced of it, but I'm thinking of the commuters in Droitwich at the moment when I'm doing this, when I'm trying to do the best I can to see if we can improve it, even in a small way.
Yeah, this particular line is just really bad. I mean, speaking from experience, they always seem to come up with a new excuse. When you hear that over the tannoy, it's either like leaves on the track or overhead wires or
the leaves on the track is a classic and will come back into force in October, of course, on the cross-city line. At a time when the German market is about to start as well. But that's an absolute classic. They don't seem to have any plan B for anything that might occur. I mean, it's kind of like I'm a football supporter. I won't tell you who I support just in case it puts some of your listeners off. But it's the two sides can play at home on the same day, going down the same line back into Worcester, because obviously people travel from Worcester to watch professional football. Not that the football in Worcester isn't good. There are other teams, as they say. But there's nothing, you can ram yourself into a train. It's got to be unsafe at some point. There comes a point where you literally can't get onto a train. And then on a Saturday or a Sunday when football takes place, just using that as another example, you're just stuck for another hour waiting. And then add the German market to that around about Christmas, and you really, really do suffer on that line.
I think it's dangerous, actually, that line, when there's people standing up and getting squashed against the window. You can, even in the winter, it's so hot. I'm surprised. I'm sure they have had a few people faint, actually. But
not last season, but the season before. I remember going to the last game of the season, getting the train back to Droitwich on a Sunday, because the last games are always on a Sunday, and I'd bought a sandwich. And I couldn't actually I got myself right into the corner by the door when I got on the train. I couldn't physically open that sandwich until I got to Bromsgrove. That's how bad it was. And people are crying. And as you say, there are people with mobility issues that are forced to stand. There are people with anxiety issues. People, it was a warm day, people will hyperventilate, and as you say, I'm sure people have fainted. I've never witnessed that yet, to be fair, but I'm sure that's going to happen at some point.
I'm just going a bit further afield. I've got Claire Bullivant in the studio as well, journalist Claire Bullivant, and she often goes to LA. And you say that the prices on the day, I mean, it's not West Midlands per se, but you say to get to London, it's just ridiculous. And to hear today that the fares will go up again early next year.
A few months ago, actually, I went down to London, and my ticket, I think it cost about £100, and sometimes I can get a flight to LA for $180, so you can do the math, and it's crazy to just do that short journey down to London. What can be done?
I think it's easy to say nationalisation, given my background. It's easy to say nationalisation, put that back into the control of the public, but that's not going to happen for a considerable time. People have got to be held to account, properly to account, for the services that they're not providing. I was going to say providing, but it's that then they're not providing. People have got to witness this firsthand. The people in influential positions, MPs, more senior councillors than me, have got to actually witness what people are suffering, and I do use that word, suffering, on a day-to-day basis. I saw pictures on Twitter this morning of a 2-carriage train yesterday where people literally couldn't move. You know, they were wedged between cases, because people are using trains as well at this time of year to go to the airport, to go on holiday, or to go to New Street to get a train, maybe to another destination in the UK to go on holiday. So you've got cases and you've got people rammed in. People need to see, and they've got to, if they're not providing, if it goes on a regular basis, and the stats will show this, if it goes on a regular basis, they've got to be properly fined and properly sort of regulated as to what they're doing. You know, this isn't political. Everybody is suffering on a day-by-day basis. Anybody that gets on that train, the mad dash, I normally get the 7:13 from Droitwich to Birmingham to get another train to go on to where I work every day. I didn't today because I'm here with you two lovely people, but it's one of those things where there's a mad dash for the doors when the train stops in the hope that you're going to get a seat. And I mean, I realise other countries experience differently. I've famously seen a video in Japan where they employ people to push people onto trains.
I've seen those. Yeah. We're not far off, are we?
It feels like that. Yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely feels like that. And surely we don't want to get to that stage, because, or you need to introduce a graded pricing system. You know, go back to the point, if you're prepared not to sit, pay less. You know, but you see, revenue isn't even inspected properly. It's another bugbear of mine. You can get on those trains, and you can get from your starting point to your end point without your ticket being checked.
Oh, often, yeah.
Often. It's often the case. I mean, I use a Swift card, so I just tap in and out of places that I go to. But I can go to places. My mother lives in Smethwick. I can go on the Snow Hill line to Smethwick. I can get on at Droitwich, get off at Smethwick, and I don't get checked at all. And there's no control at either end.
Do you think lots of people are using the service and not paying?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, I pay, and I think it's important to pay, and I think it's important to make the point, obviously people are providing a service, and you need to pay for it. But
you do feel disillusioned, don't you, to not have it checked? You think, why am I doing it?
Why am I doing
when others aren't doing it?
But, and I would always pay, and I would never advocate that people don't pay. But if you're not going to get checked, people are going to think, well, can I get away with this?
And why do I have to pay if someone else is getting away with it?
And then it just causes arguments. And I struggle, but it is not regulated at the moment. It's all driven by profit. It's a profit mantra from the train companies.
Do you think that they are missing a trick if they're not checking tickets and having half of the people not
I think
there?
they say they're understaffed, don't they? But it's always something understaffed, undertrained. Haven't got
that's right. I mean, one of the reasons given for the delays over the past couple of weeks is that we haven't quite got enough staff at the moment, but we're training 200 new staff. And apparently it takes a year to train a driver. Now, I accept that completely. I mean, it's a difficult job in that sense, and it's not something where you can just get on a train and hope after a few weeks that you're going to get it right. I accept that completely. I do accept that. But having said that, why now? They must have spotted this coming before. The lack of train staff has come in the holiday period. You know, staff are entitled to holidays, of course they are. Without a shadow of a doubt. But you need to have a contingency.
Prepare,
you know, I mean, I go on holiday, somebody has to cover for me. You know, you go on holiday, presumably somebody has to cover for you. In a way.
Yeah.
I realise that the jobs we all do are different, but you don't nearly grind to a halt because you haven't invested in the staff, or you haven't got enough staff to do the job.
Yeah.
And if you're not employing enough staff, it suggests to me that people higher up are thinking, let's run this on the bare bones and hope that it works out. And rather than, employing more people and paying more. You know, it's difficult not to think that senior managers are actually thinking, well, this will cut into our bonuses if we don't.
You obviously know a lot about it. Where does do it correctly? Are there any areas or regions that we can learn from?
Probably a few a lot better than ours, to be honest.
There probably are, but actually if you look around, we are bad. But if you look at the Great Northern routes, the northern routes round about Manchester and then down in the south, I follow all of these on Twitter and people who use those services. We suffer really in a way, not as much as they do, but it's all relative because there are lots more people using the services in those areas. Some of the stories you read on Twitter, on social media, are dreadful. You know, three trains in a row cancelled in the south, and then everybody's packing onto the fourth. Kind of like that Japan scenario I just described. And, you know, so I would say actually I haven't particularly seen a good example in this country. It gets about okay. I actually think if we looked at the way the Europeans run some of their train services, there's better examples over there than there is in this country. We have an ageing transport infrastructure, which is failing. You know, we had last week, if you recall, on Friday, the line between London Euston and Birmingham effectively closed for 15 hours because the wires had come down. Where else do you see that happening on a regular basis? Because it does happen on a regular basis in this country. And that's, to me, we haven't invested in the actual overall rail infrastructure as a country, not as an area or as an individual area. We've just failed to put that investment in. And all they're doing is putting a plaster on the cut when it happens, you know. So that bit of signalling has come down, which has disrupted. I couldn't get to work. I work in Coventry. I could not get to work on the London Euston line on Friday morning. I just turned around and came home. My manager said, go home. You know, she said, what's the point? She said, even if you get here, she said, what time are you going to get home if you're going back? And there's that aspect to it. We need a massive injection of cash, whatever it is, into the infrastructure in this country, because until that happens, we're only ever plastering over the cuts.
And another thing I wanted to talk to you about, Alan, was the car parking charges being introduced at Droitwich railway station. Yeah. It is West Midlands Railway that have introduced that. And as a councillor, as you were telling me earlier, you don't have any control over that or anything like that, because they're usually council-run car parks, aren't they, typically?
Yeah.
But how do you think this will affect Droitwich residents?
The area I represent, Droitwich Central, which is where the train station is, I think charging like this is going to have quite a profound effect on them, because at the moment you've got certain parts of that area around the station are free and certain parts are charged for. You've effectively got 4 car parking facilities there, one either side of the station that run parallel to each platform, which, as you quite rightly say, belong to West Midlands Railways. Normally those sorts of areas belong to the local authority. And I think Redditch is an example where that car park belongs to the local authority, although I'm not 100% certain on that one. And then there's 2 car parks at the back of the train station, which are owned by private groups and who charge for those facilities. So inevitably, with free services, there's a rush to get the car parking spaces in the morning. By charging, I don't think it's going to stop people using the car parks. I think what it's going to do is push those people a little bit further away from the station into the roads in the area where I live, because I lived a 10-minute walk, if that, from the train station, and you're going to have the roads around there even more congested with cars with passengers that use the train station than they already are, because there is no effective way of regulating that at the moment. Yeah. And I think it's going to increase the frustration. There was a public meeting held last year in Droitwich in May or June last year, which I attended, and one of the big frustrations that came out of that meeting for that area was exactly that. Cars coming from out of the area, and sometimes not out of the area, just other parts of Droitwich, parking in the area, effectively blocking roads, blocking drives on certain occasions, and it's just going to make those people feel more and more angry. And West Midlands Railways did this with no consultation with any of us. Didn't speak to us about it. They just introduced it.
I didn't see anything of the sort, but when I did contact them, the West Midlands Railway bosses said they had reduced the daily rate to £3 from the £4.50 initially proposed during the consultation period after listening to customer feedback. But as you just said, I saw absolutely nothing on it until they'd come back and told me that. Well, I don't think it was. If it was out there, it certainly wasn't. Yeah,
but that's clear, right. And I mean, they can put forward that argument. But if you're already paying £12 to £13 per day to do a return journey to Birmingham from Droitwich, and then you're adding £3 to that. I failed maths twice at school, so I'm not going to try and work that out at the moment. You can see you're talking close on £20 a day to travel to and from Birmingham from Droitwich. £100 a week, £400 a month. times that by 12. That's where my math starts to fail. And it adds up. Yeah. And people are not getting wage increases that allows them to compensate for that. So, they can say it's been reduced from £4.50 to £3 all they like, and they can even say, because I saw in the article you were kind enough to send me, that they're saying if you've got a season ticket, you can have it for £1.12 per day. It's still added cost. The train station, in my opinion, is not in the greatest of nick. I was saying to you outside of sitting here for this podcast that I think Barnt Green is actually maintained, and it's an unstaffed station at Barnt Green, and it's better maintained than Droitwich is. We've got a couple of shelters. Half the time the lights don't work. You have to go and get a key for the loo from the ticket office. Half the time the ticket office isn't open. And so on and so on. And you just, all you're doing is paying £1.12 to leave your car there. I saw reports at the weekend on social media that cars at the train station were vandalised. That the windows were smashed on the car to get the sat-navs out of the car. So, and the one side, the ticket office side, the way people come up and down there at peak times, I'm sure at some point there's going to be an accident because people just reverse up and down there, they come up and down there, they're picking people up. You've got no way of regulating that either. I struggle to think what even you would pay £1.12 for on that side. And then they talk about investing the money that they get from this into improving the facilities at train stations. There's probably barely 40 spaces at Droitwich that they're charging for. You're not going to generate an awful lot of income from that. We go back to my maths point again, but you're not going to generate an awful lot of income from that. And what's it going to do from Droitwich? And what are they going to do from Droitwich? And we'll have again, like we were talking about earlier, it's all soon. It'll happen soon. We've got plans. Nobody ever sees these plans, No.
And interestingly, they didn't mention any of this when you went out the other day to the station. Exactly. There was a public consultation. It was on the services itself, so they probably knew by then that they were going to start charging at that car park, but they didn't mention it once to anybody.
It was 4 weeks ago, wasn't it?
4 weeks.
4 weeks ago that we went to that meeting. There was no mention at that point of this happening, because I think a few more people might have come to that meeting. In fact, I'm quite happy to say that I would have gone and spoken to some of the residents that live in the immediate surrounding area, not far from me, who have got very strong views on this. And they would have come to that meeting as well to express their concerns about that particular proposal. This one feels like it's coming under the radar. And on top of all the disruption we've had in the past month since that meeting, it just feels like kicking you while you're down, really.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Alan, for coming to the studio. That was Councillor Alan Humphries. And we'd like to have you again in the future. Thank you for touching that. Is there anything that you'd like to say in regards to if anyone has any concerns, any residents have any concerns, can they contact you?
Yeah, they can contact me. My contact details are available on the council website, droitwichspa.gov.uk. And I also know that the town clerk would pass on any of my contact details because he's got my permission to do it. So if anybody wants to contact me, I'm readily contactable, and that's probably the best way to contact me.
Thank you so much, Alan. Now I will be going to Claire, and we will be speaking about the news, the rest of the news in Droitwich and Bromsgrove this week. Hi and welcome back to the studio. It's Harry again with journalist Claire Bullivant, and we are looking at this week's news. I'm taking over from editor Tristan Harris this week, as he's currently in the Isle of Wight.
I've been following him on Instagram all week. Do you know what? Tristan is one of those people, isn't he, who just does so much. He's going on holiday. If I was going on holiday, I'd like to lie on a beach and do nothing for a week. But he's there. He's even reading. He's even reading the local newspaper. I think I saw him this morning. Picture. Yeah. I'm pretty sure actually he'll probably be keeping up with Bromsgrove and Droitwich news as well, no doubt. Totally
keeping the tabs on us. But,
hi, Tristan.
Since Tristan has been off, though, one of the big stories that's coming this week is that there's a school for up to 18 autistic children in Bromsgrove that's been given the go-ahead after council's approved the plans on Monday. So, I mean, that's fantastic because there's not really that many facilities like that in Bromsgrove at the minute. And the interesting thing about this story is that the Bromsgrove District Council officers had previously recommended to the councillors before it was approved to refuse the plans for the school, which is on Lockram Fields at Copyholt Lane near Stoke Pound.
Okay, so that's kind of in between Redditch and
Yeah,
Bromsgrove, isn't
it's
it?
the closer side to Bromsgrove, but yeah, I mean it comes under Bromsgrove. But yeah, like you say, it's Copyholt Lane. That's a big stretch, isn't it? Somewhere between Bromsgrove and Redditch.
And so it's for 18 pupils. Up to 18.
Yeah, up to 18 at a time. So I believe, I mean, although the plans haven't been completely finalised, I believe that will be 18 per day. I think it can probably shift slightly. But yeah.
Brilliant. I posted this last night on the Instagram page, and we already had comments of people saying, how do you apply? How can we apply?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean, how will people apply?
I mean, at the minute, there are things that have been set. So, like, we know, like, the opening times will be between 7:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. It'll be closed on Saturdays, Sundays and bank holidays. But as far as applying goes, it's only just been approved. So I believe that'll be up to the applicant to sort of assess near the time, and we certainly will be touching on that soon, and we'll let people know. But at the minute, nobody knows for that. But what, as I say, what was quite interesting is the officers had previously recommended councillors refuse the plans, and they told them that it would be an inappropriate development because it's on greenbelt land, and it had poor transport links because it's quite kind of in the middle of nowhere. So essentially saying it'd be hard for them to get to, despite admitting that Bromsgrove was in dire need of a school like it.
Yeah,
So-
you do hear about autistic, children and things, and it doesn't seem to be that much, does there, for them around here often. So, I mean, it sounds amazing, but sometimes, 18 places or however many it's going to be, it might be very tough competition to get into it somehow.
Exactly.
But maybe it could be the start of something new.
Well, I mean, one of the Finstall resident agreed with us, saying that it's absolute necessity that it will help support those wonderful young people with their education and their lives. And she set up a petition which was to essentially get the plans approved, just to throw her support behind it, and it reached just under 1,600 signatures.
Wow.
So that just goes to show, that's just a small Facebook petition that goes to show that people wanted it.
So before it's been approved now, they just kept denying it because it was on this green belt land?
Yeah, the officers said to the councillors, you shouldn't approve this, but it received backing from all of the councillors, so they went against the grain. Yeah.
Oh, right. Does that often happen?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Oh,
Usually go off officer recommendation because they're the ones who are going out and doing, all the field study and stuff like that. So it's unusual to go against it, but I think this particular time, the public seems to have had their voice heard, and councillors seem to have gone with them instead.
Well, I'm sure you're going to keep us updated with the developments. Yeah. Look forward to seeing what it's all about.
Absolutely, yeah, we'll keep people updated. And also going on is there's a few fed-up residents in Rubery who have hit out at Bromsgrove District Housing Trust and Bromsgrove District Council because saying that claiming they failed to deal with a rat infestation in their homes.
This makes me shiver.
I know. Residents on Birch Road are saying that they're living in fear after coming face to face with the rodents on a daily basis. They say the rats are coming from a sewer which runs at the back of Birch Road, which is a cul-de-sac, into their gardens before finally settling inside their living rooms.
Actually coming in the houses?
Yeah,
oh
coming
my
into the houses.
Goodness. Well, don't they say you're never more than 6 feet
That's
away from a rat or something?
Yeah.
Well, I've just been Googling. When you said we were going to be talking about rats, I thought, I don't know anything about them. I just know I don't really like them.
Yeah.
And the average brown rat, or Norwegian rat, is what is the most common rat that we have here in this country, grows up to 40 centimetres long, which is pretty big. That's
big,
almost half a...
That's scary big.
That is scary. And it can have between 5 and 10 babies 3 to 6 times a year. So from one rat, they can produce 60 of them, basically, 60 of themselves. So this is the sort of thing that the councils do need to get on top of, because imagine if you don't keep on top of it, it's...
they'll breed and there'll be more and more.
This is obviously what's happened.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with this situation is I've contacted both Bromsgrove District Council and Bromsgrove District Housing Trust, and basically, what BDHT are saying is that in the house it is their problem, and they will help residents get in contact with a pest control person.
I see. So outside
but then outside that, it's the council's responsibility to then start looking at the sewers and things like that, and put down essentially poison to kill.
This is the other
rats.
thing. Like, a lot of the councils, when they do it, they don't use the environmentally friendly poisons, do they?
No.
Whereas a lot of homeowners now do, because it only takes an owl or a bird to pick up the poison rat, and then that gets killed.
That's a really good point. Something that I hadn't thought.
Yeah,
of, actually.
And I do know that a lot of councils don't bother doing the. It would be something that we could chase and
Have a
find
look
out their
at,
views on
yeah.
it. Who knows? Our council might be one of the good ones that does.
Yeah, I mean, what residents keep saying as well is that they're kind of getting fobbed off a little bit by the council, because they just send out a pest control guy too, and they just put down traps, and they kill the rats in the homes or just outside the homes, and then but the rats are coming back again and again. One resident said he's had it happen to him for 2.5 years now, and that's just back and forth again. Just the same thing happens. Pest control come out, put down the traps, and then they come back.
Yeah, well, I remember when we had an office in Bromsgrove, it was our kind of like magazine division. It was on the corner of Worcester Road, and there's that chippy there, and there's the Chinese restaurant. I don't know if the Chinese restaurant's still there actually, but it was at the time. And the Bromsgrove Council were amazing, because there was a massive rat infestation when we first moved in, but they sorted it out. But it is the sort of thing that they have to keep on top of, because there is a chippy there, and people just threw their chips and everything, and it just kept exploding.
Gross.
And it was really hard to keep on top of. But it's just you have to keep on at the council, don't you, really?
Yeah. Well, we wish all of those residents the best, and just to let them know, BDHT have advised calling 0800 85016, and that is BDHT, so that they can put them in touch with a local pest control specialist.
Brilliant.
And also in Droitwich, a man has pleaded not guilty to the murder of 80-year-old Droitwich pensioner Desmond Wooding. And you'll remember when I went out and spoke to the superintendent about this.
This was the murder of that elderly gentleman that everyone loved, and he was a very popular member of the community.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd got our guy, didn't we?
I know, yeah. So it's Adam Mason, aged 32, from Plough Lane in Tiverton, denied the murder. That's the big thing. He denied the murder at Worcester Crown Court last Friday. And Mark Mason, they are related, also from Plough Lane, pleaded not guilty to assisting an offender. So both men will now go on trial at court on December 9th this year.
Why were they charged originally? Were they seen?
I believe, the police didn't go into it too much. I believe they were caught on some footage from a nearby pub. And from our understanding, Adam Mason, the man who's being charged with murder, sort of fled and went to one of his family homes, which was this Mark Mason, and then they kind of hid out or whatever.
So it makes it look a bit.
Yeah, so this Mark Mason has been accused of assisting the offender for having Adam in the house with him.
Because it's the sort of thing that just doesn't happen, does it, in Droitwich?
It's
like
one of the
lovely
things,
little
isn't it?
Droitwich.
I think that's why it's so. Did you ever see the BBC programme Broadchurch?
No.
Kind of reminds me of that. It's a small village or small town, and it's and a murder happens there. So it's just unheard of, isn't it? Really, you don't really get them that often.
I loved your coverage of it. You were straight there, and you got the interview with the police officer outside the property, and you put it on live and on YouTube. That's the future of news, isn't it, Harry?
Yeah,
we need to do more of that.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can follow our YouTube channels as well by just typing into the search box Droitwich Standard, Redditch Standard, Bromsgrove Standard, Solihull Observer, Worcester Observer. And
send us your videos as well, because we'll pop them on our channel. We're trying to grow the channels at the moment. They've only just launched. So, hopefully we'll be able to provide a lot more, more visual news.
More video content going forward. I think that is absolutely what people want to see.
Absolutely.
So that's a roundup of the news. Tristan Harris, our editor, will be back next week. So thank you for having me, Claire.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And I'll hand the ropes back to you now, where you can let us know what's going on this weekend.
Perfect. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you.
For all the things to do and see this week, it's Claire Bullivant with this week's What's On Guide.
Thanks, Harry. Yes, we've got some fun things happening this weekend in town. Starting off on Friday, the 16th of August. Couple of great live bands for you on Friday night. Highway 61 will be on at the Hot Pole Inn in Bromsgrove, and the very talented Dan Greenaway, he'll be performing at number 3A in Aston Fields. You know I love my music, but I haven't actually seen Highway 61 perform yet, so I asked them what we can expect, and they said they'll be bringing Bromsgrove some of the best harmonica-driven, bar-rocking boogie blues from the North Coast to the Caribbean. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? I can't wait. But if you fancy a bit of sporting action on Friday evening, it's Droitwich First Team versus Bromsgrove First Team in the rugby at Droitwich Rugby Club. 7:30pm kickoff there. And this is just a kickoff pre-season friendly, so all welcome, and it's free entry, so you can't beat that, can you? Then moving on to Saturday, the 17th of August, it's the Morton Stanley Festival happening at Morton Stanley Park in Redditch. If you're around, definitely try and get yourself there. They put this event on every year and it's absolutely brilliant. It's totally free. They've got loads of different music, food, there's a fun fair there, children's activities, loads of local stalls and demonstrations. It really is a fantastic day. And it's also actually on Sunday. So it's 12 noon until 10pm on Saturday, and on the Sunday it's 12 noon until 7pm, so do try and check that out. There's also a good theatre production I've been told about happening over at the Artrix on Saturday night. It's a play entitled After the End, and they say you can expect a claustrophobic, darkly comic, twisted tale, and is yet another incredible offering from playwright Dennis Kelly. Artrix.co.uk for all the info on that. Also at the Artrix on Saturday is a showing of Rocket Man, but this time it's a sing-along version. Yes, you can sing along. I love these. I hate having to be quiet when a good song comes on, so I apologise now if you happen to be sitting next to me, but it all kicks off there, 7:30, and that's on Saturday night at the Artrix. And a couple of live bands for you too on Saturday night. The fabulous local band Kick the Fridge, they're going to be bringing down the house at the Hot Pole Inn in Bromsgrove on Saturday, and 9 Carat Purple. These guys are apparently incredible. They're a deep purple tribute band, and they're going to be performing at the Westcroft Arms in Droitwich, 9pm start there. Then on the Sunday the 18th of August, don't forget it's the Studley Car Boot Sale. Gates open at 6am. You can always pick up a bargain at the Studley Car Boot Sale. It's a well-run enterprise, and it's a family-run business actually, but it's incredible. Every year it seems to get bigger and better. studleycarbootsale.co.uk is the website if you want more details. Then in the afternoon, it's bandstand music in Sanders Park once again, but this time it's with the Chase Jazzmen. So take a deck chair or just take a stroll around the park between 2:30 and 4:30pm for a free afternoon of music in the park. Also, the Malvern Hills District Brass Band, they're going to be playing over in Droitwich in Lido Park on Sunday too. That's also between 2:30 and 4:30pm. Also on Sunday, there is a Kramer Cat Rescue and Sanctuary Open Day happening at their Hopwood location. B48 7TW is the postcode. I've been to these before. They're a fantastic day. It's all for a great cause. Raising money for the cats. 12 noon until onwards. It goes on all afternoon into the evening sometimes. There's stalls, a barbecue, prizes, gifts, games, fun galore. It's great for the whole family, so do try and support them if you can. There's also a lovely garden open day for charity happening on Sunday. This is at Round Hill Garden, 24 Braces Lane, B61DY is the postcode for your sat-nav. And this garden has been featured everywhere. It's been in the Daily Mail, it's been in Amateur Gardening Magazine, Gardening News, plus many, many local publications. Apparently it's spectacular. They're also putting on a great day for the charity. There's going to be a tombola there, a second-hand book stall, jigsaw puzzle stall, craft stall, and they'll be selling plants 1:30 until 5:30pm there. Then moving into next week, just a couple of things for the kids. On Tuesday, the 20th of August, Trevor Hill and his Birds of Prey are back at Hanbury Hall and Gardens. WR9 7EA is the postcode for that. And if you haven't seen these guys before, they're amazing. Trevor Hill's falconry display team is one of the largest and most varied in the UK. He's got eagles, he's got vultures, hawks, falcons, owls, you name it. Gates open at 9 p.m. and definitely do check it out. Your kids especially, they're going to love it. And also on Tuesday, it's another Circus Chaos workshop happening in Sanders Park with heaps of equipment to play on, learning and fun for all ages. They actually say everyone from 6 to 106. And their performer, Steve Chaos, will help you have lots of fun there. And it's all free, 12 noon until 4 p.m. there. Have a lovely week, everyone. And remember, if you have an event going on, let us know so we can let everybody know.